Good morning. Welcome to Diane's Kitchen. No, it's not a cooking show. It's just time to sit down at the kitchen table and talk to some interesting people. Today you are going to love my guest. His name is Robby Olson, and he is here to inform you about something that you probably never, ever gave a second thought to. But you might be interested in maybe doing what he does when the program's over. I would like to thank my sponsors right off. Definitely Matt's Body Shop, fitness centers, both of them, Shell Lake, Spooner, open, doing well. You want to take off that poundage that you might have put on during the virus, stay at home, that's the place to be. You want to get buff for summer, that's the place to be. It's manned in the morning from 8 to noon, or look them up, Google them, our favorite Google. And of course, Greenview, physical fitness, not physical fitness. I can't remember what Greenview is. Greenview physical therapy. Physical therapy. And they're there to serve you. No longer just post-surgery patients. Now you can go. You've got some problems. They're experts, and they are so good at what they do. Then we have got Robby here today, and he is a font of information about something that I really didn't know much about, and they are pigeons. Good morning.
Good morning, Diane.
I just cannot wait to get all the information. First of all, how did you and when did you get involved?
Well, as a kid, my brother would catch wild pigeons and sell them to the dog trainers. And I always wanted some of my own because there were some really pretty ones. And he never let me have any.
Wait a minute. What did the dog trainers do with them?
They teach the dog how to point. They put them in the grass and they can smell the bird.
Oh.
And they'll point it out for them.
And that's all?
Yep. And they love to use pigeons for that.
Okay.
Yep. And then I was 12 years old after my dad had passed away, and I went to the extension office to find out about pigeons. Mm-hmm. And the fellow there set me on to an article in a magazine, and then I got my first pigeons. And
so were you planning on doing the same thing as your brother did? Use them?
No.
Oh.
No. I was more interested in like the roller pigeons. That's a performance bird, like a homing pigeon is. There's 3 different classes of pigeons.
Okay.
Fancy, utility, and performance.
Who knew?
Yeah. And there's over 300 breeds of pigeons. So there's something for everybody.
Okay, when you say, let's start at the top. Let's start with fancy. What does a fancy pigeon do?
You use them for showing.
Pigeon shows?
Yeah, yep.
So their colors, their feathers, how are they judged?
Their markings, their body conformation.
Oh, gracious.
Yeah, there's like fantail pigeons, which a lot of people know about because of their big tail.
Oh.
And then there's powder pigeons, which are, they have a real big crop. They puff up, and they have long legs. And then there's utility breeds like the kings and the giant homers. They're used for meat.
Meat?
But, yeah.
Where?
They're about like a banty chicken almost. They're that big. Some of the fancier restaurants have
in the U.S.?
Yes,
And they're called pigeons?
Squab.
Oh, these are squab.
The baby bird, yeah.
Oh.
See, the baby bird is actually bigger than the parent when it leaves the nest. Its weight is bigger until they start to fly, and then they lose weight. But
it's like boys in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Usually, they're pretty chunky.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the growth spurt happens and whoop, up they go and they lose the weight. And so when you have a squab,
mm-hmm.
it's really a pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. That's very interesting because I have cooked them. I have eaten them.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, they're a pain in the neck because they've got these tiny little bones that you're always having to pick out.
Yeah.
It's like eating fish. If you don't mind picking over your food all the time. But that's a squab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what's the third class?
The performance is the one that's the last one. And that would be like the racing homer pigeon or the roller pigeon, high-flying tipplers. There's different breeds.
It's like a whole different world out there.
Yeah.
If you had to estimate how many people in Wisconsin, in Washburn County, in the United States, in the world are interested and are active with pigeons.
Well, we belong to the American Racing Pigeon Union.
Oh, the American?
Yeah, and there's thousands of people that belong to that organization. And a lot of the older people, when they retire, they move to Spring Hill, Florida, and everybody does pigeons there. It's on the Gulf side, and they've got a beautiful clubhouse down there, and a lot of people retire and just to do the sport.
That's just, I would never have guessed that.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Florida. So do they take their pigeons down with them, or do they buy, and where do you buy a pigeon?
Well, there's magazines that we get that have advertisement in them, and just word of mouth. You can spot a pigeon guy a mile away just
How?
by driving down the road. You can spot these pigeon lofts. You know, you get an eye for people that have the pigeons, and then to race them, they have to go home. So you have to settle the bird, whether you raise the baby or not, but it has to be settled at your place, and it only comes home.
To establish this is your home.
Yes.
How long does that take?
Well, they fly, anywhere from 50 to 65 miles an hour, depending on the wind, if they, are into a headwind or if they have a tailwind. So when we race, we start out, our first race is 100 miles. But we fly with an organization in the Twin Cities called the Heartland Racing Pigeon Federation. And so their first race is 100 miles, so that is 200 for us. So we start out at 200 with them and then go on out to it. We stop at Topeka, Kansas. That's our 500-mile race.
Okay. Total ignorance here. You get into this by buying pigeons. Usually, how many pigeons does somebody buy, a beginner?
Well, if you're going to have a race team, you want to have about 30. That would be a good number.
30 on the race team.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Where do you house these?
You put them in a loft. They need to be dry. They can take anything except the damp weather is hard on them. So as long as it's dry and well ventilated, they're satisfied with anything you give them as long as it's clean and it has plenty of air.
Okay.
Yep.
Because, like I was saying before, the way I think of pigeons is in New York.
Yeah.
Some of those seedy movies they used to make in the 50s. And they were on the roof. And there was just like a big cage with, I don't know, canvas over the top or wood over the top or metal, and the guy would always be up on the roof taking care of his pigeons. So today you could like in a garage?
You can have them in a garage. A lot of them, the buildings are about the size of an ice fishing shack, and then you have to have an aviary on it so they can get out and get sunlight and air.
But still be in.
Kind
of like a screen porch.
Yeah, yep. Aviary. Yep.
An aviary. My goodness. And then you establish them, this is your home.
Yep, exactly.
Is that all you have to teach them? This is your home?
Yeah, you let them out when they're young so they don't fly away. And you let them out when they're hungry, and then they come in the building to get food. So that's how you start it out with. And then once they get used to the surroundings, they'll start flying. They'll start routing. They'll fly around your place. You might not see them for a half an hour. Well, then now they're ready to start training down the road.
Okay.
So then you take them down the road, every day.
You mean literally down the road?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And then they fly back home to eat.
Okay. How do you get them down the road, and how many are going down the road?
You'd take those 30.
30 of them.
And you put them in your carriers that you have and take them down the road, and then you let them out and providing the weather is decent.
Sure.
Yeah. And you let them out and they fly back to the house.
That's what makes them homing
Yeah.
pigeons.
Hmm.
How old are they at about this time?
Well, they're full grown. They're
And how long
and
does
leave
it?
the nest at 5 weeks.
5 weeks? They're
Yeah.
full grown.
Yeah.
And
So
how long does a pigeon live?
they live anywhere from 14 to 28 years. Yeah.
Wow, so 5 weeks they're fully grown,
Yeah.
and they can live up to 28 years.
Yeah. There's books that have that documented.
Oh my gracious.
Hmm.
Do they fly, and are they in the game at 28, or are they retired?
No, they're not. You know, you'll race them maybe 5, maybe 6 years, and then you use them for breeding.
Ah,
Yeah.
breeding. That's right, the genetics
Yeah.
and
Yep.
how you do it. So if you started out innocently with 30 birds,
Hmm.
you have built or purchased some sort of place for them to be
Hmm.
dry,
Hmm.
and you're successful. You love the job. When do you start breeding them, and how quickly can your little group of pigeons turn into 500?
Well, they're very prolific. So
Yeah, they're birds.
yeah, they when they mate, it takes 10 days before they lay an egg, and she'll lay an egg about 5 in the afternoon, and then
goodness.
she'll skip a day, and then she'll lay that second egg, and then from that point they incubate, both him and her, until 17 days when the babies hatch. And he takes the nest from about 10 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and then she'll take it from 5 until the next morning. And then they both develop pigeon milk in their crop. And when the babies hatch, they feed them that for 5 to 7 days. It's like a cheesy substance. And then they'll gradually integrate the half-digested grain for them until their digestive system takes over and they eat whole grain.
Is there any other bird that supplies milk for their babies?
Not that I know of, no. No?
You know, it's a good thing I trust you,
Yeah.
or I would think that you're really putting me on.
No,
Sure,
it's-
they nurse their babies.
Yeah, they call it pumping when they feed the baby.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he does, and she does.
Yep, they both do.
He takes the day shift, she takes the night shift.
Yep, and he picks out the spot where they nest. He'll draw her to his spot that he picks out,
Okay.
and then he'll defend that area.
And do they mate for life like
Yes.
cardinals do?
Yes, they do. Yep, and if something happens to one of them,
Yeah.
they'll wait a while before they'll pick another mate, but they will remate.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That always worried me about like geese.
Yeah.
And then you hear the guns and the
Yeah.
geese are killed, and you think, oh, that poor mate is left to wander the rest of its life without a mate. But they
They will remate, yep.
I see. They wait the whatever required amount of
Yeah.
whatever, and then they can remate.
Yep.
Already, you have just boggled my mind with just these things.
Uh-huh.
So, when you build your facility,
Mm-hmm.
do you need to build for the future?
Exactly. You got to plan how many you're going to keep. And there's like a rule of thumb, 1 square foot per bird. So you need plenty of space. You can't, if you overcrowd them, it's not good.
So all they need is 1 square foot, though.
Yeah. Well, this is figured for floor space.
Sure.
Yeah. And of course, your building is going to be 8 foot high and your perches are up high.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have all of your birds from 30 to what? Double that in.
Yeah. They produce 2 babies at a time. And you don't want to keep breeding too many months. Right now is when we would stop breeding.
Okay.
But they'll start in January and then breed up till now. And they raise 2 at a time.
And how many times do they do this?
Well,
during the year?
they'll do 8. If you let them do it, they'd do about 8 a year. 8 nests.
8 nests. So you could have 16
Yep.
from 2.
Yep. But you won't get the vigor out of those later ones. The stronger ones are the ones at the beginning.
That kind of hold true with people.
Yeah.
You know, so often you'll see somebody that, I don't know, has 6 babies at a time or,
Yeah.
you know, children in succession. And before you know it, the kids are starting to need glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, just certain things that it seems like the vigorous ones.
Right.
Wow. So now you've got all of these birds. I would imagine you've got to keep books all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, you have records that you keep track of because you want to make sure that you keep the better birds.
Exactly.
And a bird that may fly good as a young bird may not do as good as an older bird. So you need to kind of do both old bird season and young bird season to really find out what you have.
My gracious, it would be a bookkeeping nightmare.
Yeah, and there's different body conformations for different races. You know, a 500-mile race is going to take a bird that you know can hold up compared to a 100-mile race.
So what kind of bird holds up for 500 miles? What do you look for?
Well, you don't want a big bird. You want something smaller that's
Sure.
lighter. And there's a lot to it with the muscle, the supple muscles, soft. And a heavy bird, of course, is going to take a lot more energy to stay up.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you physically then mush on them
You,
to
you-
see?
you- well, you
know,
look at them. Yeah, you look at the skin color. A bird that's in condition will have pink skin, and a bird that isn't will have more purplish look to it. And yeah, there's a lot to it.
No kidding. You brought some bands.
Uh-huh.
When do these go on the birds?
When they're 5 to 7 days old, that's when
Okay.
you put it on, and you slide it over their toes, and then the claw on the back is what holds it on.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, they're just
And they're different
Little.
color for each year, so that you can
Oh,
you can
you-
look at the color and you know what year that bird is. This year is blue,
okay.
and that one there is from our club, so it has the letters SPW on it for Spooner.
Monogrammed.
Yeah.
How nice.
Yeah. And then in our book, you get an annual book, and they have, like me, listed in there for the SPW band.
Okay.
So if you found a bird and you can read it,
Oh,
you can go on the internet, and they'll tell you where that bird come from.
this is absolutely, like I say, mind-boggling. So, if the first babies are the healthiest, the smartest, the best,
Hmm.
do you let them keep breeding all year?
No, you separate them, and what you do is you have an area with the nest boxes, and the cockbirds will defend that box. So
Okay.
you leave them there, and then you move the hens, and then that gives them a chance to rest. You know, it's hard on them to breed all the time. You know, it's
Well, I would imagine.
yeah.
So, how many babies? How many times do you let them breed before?
You'd raise like 2 rounds. You know, would be
So
ideal.
4.
Yeah.
So 2 pigeons make 4 pigeons.
Yep. Yep.
And then he's there defending the nest,
Mm-hmm.
and she's got her life back.
Yep.
And this is all recorded,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's banded.
Mm-hmm.
Out of curiosity, how many have you had at one time? What was your biggest number of pigeons?
You never answer that question.
Why?
Everybody has too many pigeons.
Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah.
you can see why.
Yeah, you love them, and you don't want to get rid of them. And when they've flown for
Exactly.
you, you're kind of attached to them. So
Because, I mean, if you start out with 30 pigeons, and they each have 4 babies, it's like rabbits.
yeah, exactly.
Do you ever get, I don't know what you call it in the business, but a dud? One that
yeah.
either can't find their way back home?
Well, that's a good point that you brought up, because let's say you raised 100 pigeons,
Okay.
probably 10 of them are going to be really good,
Oh,
and the rest are going to be mediocre.
okay. How do you tell which one's really good? By
You fly them.
you fly them.
Yep.
At what age are they ready to start flying?
Well, we usually, on young birds, start training in July, and then we race August and September. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July. They're 7 months old.
Okay, so they're born in January, They start racing 7 months after their initial training, where they come back for the food, and then you take them a little farther down the road, let them out. Then they come back for food.
Yep.
How far do you take them out before you know they know where they live?
Well, once you get out past, like 60 miles, 75 miles, that's pretty good.
And they find their way back home.
Yep.
How long does it usually take them the first time to get home after 60 miles?
Well,
Days or?
well, they have to circle to get their bearings. They use the Earth's magnetic field, they use the sun, and they use hearing. And with the combination of that, that's how they figure out where home is. So depending on the weather, when you turn them loose, they like to gather up as a group. It's safety, in numbers.
Sure.
And then they'll circle a couple of times until they figure out where home is, and then they'll head home. Now, depending on how confusing the day is, they waste that time circling so that, they lose time then.
Oh, sure they do.
Yep. And they don't fly in a straight line. They kind of, vary as they head for home.
I like cows.
Yeah. But they'll fly 65 miles an hour, so once they get going,
It doesn't take them long.
usually when you come back home, they're already there. Yeah.
That is just amazing.
It is, yeah.
Are there, in most things, there is a leader. No matter what animal it is, no matter people, there's always somebody that emerges as the leader.
That's motivation. Physically, they can fly about the same speed.
Okay.
But whoever wants to get home first, that's the motivation.
Home to be home or
Yeah.
home to eat?
Both. They love their home, and if they have a mate, of course, they want to get back to that. And if they have a baby in an old bird season,
yeah.
they want to get home to take care of that baby.
Who flies better, boys or girls?
Well,
Come on.
my friend, he's the president of our club, Les Riley. He's been flying since 1959, and you can tell that he really cherishes a good hen. And like he has said, and like in bad weather and stuff, the hens seem to endure better. It's like when you work around the yard with your wife, she'll probably outwork you.
Yeah, and she doesn't mind stopping and asking for directions, unlike a lot of males, whether they're pigeons or men, that, no, I know where we are. We're not lost.
Yeah, just confused.
Yeah, just confused. Okay, so now we've got these birds housed.
Mm-hmm.
What do they eat?
We buy a pigeon mix. It's very unique. A lot of different grains in it. But
So they're grain only.
yes, yep.
Okay.
You can. They'll eat grass. I mean,
Really?
Yeah. They'll pick grass when you let them out and they monkey around the yard and stuff. But they're typically it's a good mixture of grain, and they have different mixtures for different reasons. So.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
What are the reasons?
Well, on a longer race, you need more carbohydrates.
Oh,
so,
carbo loading.
Yeah, so that's more corn in there. And then you don't want the protein too high. It's hard to digest.
Oh.
But protein is what builds the muscle. So it's all
Just like
figured
people.
out. Yeah, it's all figured out for you. You just buy the mix that you're going to need. That's all.
How big is your pigeon? What do you call it? Mansion? House?
Loft, you call
Loft.
it. Yeah.
How big is your pigeon loft? How many do you, well, you won't tell me how many you have.
No.
How big is your pigeon loft?
It's about 8 foot deep, and it's about 30 foot long.
Oh my.
Yeah, and there's sections in it,
And you've got it all down on paper so you know exactly what's what.
Yeah.
What does a pigeon die from?
We have a health regimen that we treat them for different things. Canker in the warm weather is it's a bacteria that they get, and it'll grow in their throat. So we have different products that we use, and we vary it, and you give that to them periodically. And
Just as a precaution, or are you picking these birds up and looking at them?
you do. You look at them and to
So
see
you
if
give
you
them a little
need to.
medical checkup.
And you can tell. Like in the morning when you gather them up to go train them, if they still have food in their crop, there's something wrong. It should have been digested by
Sure.
morning. So, you look at them, you handle them, and
Sure.
And you can tell if they kind of stand off by themselves that something ain't right.
Not feeling good.
And then you isolate them and treat them.
And treat.
Yeah. Paratyphoid, coccidiosis, there's different
Wow.
things that they get.
Are these prevalent or is it unusual?
No, it's common,
Ah,
but and it's always present. So you just, if the bird gets down, you want to make sure you take care of it. And then it's not a problem.
and does it take a long time for recovery? Is this one of those?
No, they are amazing. When you train them, you can feel the weight of the carrier on, when you carry the birds. And when you race them, they lose weight, of course. And then in a couple of days, they gain that right back again. They're amazing how fast they can
Recoup.
So
how is there a time frame that you don't want to race them every day for a month? Do they have a schedule that they're happier with?
No, you usually, when you start getting further out, then you rotate and rest half.
So-
you do them all right away.
Okay.
And then as you get out, 300 miles or more,
Wow.
then you start rotating them.
Sure.
Fly them 1 week and not the next. And,
Sure.
Yep.
So for a pigeon that lives at your house, in your loft, how many times would they race per year?
We race 8 weeks. So
But they don't race all 8 weeks.
No. So you rotate them. So let's say half of that.
Okay.
Maybe 6 out of the 8.
Okay. So if you only race them 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
what do they do? What do they do the rest of the year?
Well, you still let them out and fly around the yard.
Okay.
So you can sit and drink coffee and watch them fly around the yard.
They just become entertainment.
Yeah. No, they're fun to watch, and they're very intelligent.
What makes them intelligent? How can you tell?
Well, if you trained a dog, you have to repeat and repeat and repeat. And with a pigeon, it seems like about 3 times and they got it.
What are you training them to do? Song and dance?
No, they just catch on quick. And actually, they were used in World War II for spotting targets for the Air Force.
How did they come back and tell them?
Well, no, they used them in the airplane, and they would peck to let them know when they're over a target.
You're
they were
kidding.
No, that's the first smart bomb.
That's hard to believe. So even in an airplane, how did they know it was a target?
They were taught that, and they got food for identifying it.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That's
it's all
still-
done by food,
That's kind of how they train animals today. It's
Yeah.
all done by food.
Food, yeah. And they have excellent eyesight.
They would have to.
Yeah, they have
But
really
birds on a whole, don't they have? I mean, an eagle. It's amazing. They can be up there, you can hardly see them, and before you know it, down they come.
Well, like a peregrine falcon, they figure that they can, well, they've done tests where they train him with some food that he's going to get. And they've taken that 2 miles from on a mountaintop and then bounced it in the air, and the bird would take off for that. So you can see 2 miles, and they say they have like 2 retinas, one for distance and then one for at the point of the kill.
Distance and near, they've got bifocals.
Yeah,
Built-in bifocals.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Boy, didn't I tell you half hour's going to go fly by? You've brought 2 other things. Counters, I think you said. This is fascinating. Show us the old one.
This is the
How
old
life used to be.
the old clock, and you set the time, you wind it, and the night that you ship the birds, like on a Friday night, when your club clock gets at a certain time, you turn this handle, and that starts the clock.
Okay.
And then you lock it up. We have a lead seal that goes on here so nobody can cheat.
Oh, sure.
And then when you, after the race is over, you bring it back to the club, we open it up and read the clock. When the bird comes home, there's a rubber band that goes on their leg with a number that is recorded on a piece of paper. And then you put that rubber band down in there, and then you give this a spin, and it stamps the time that the bird came in and what day is on the printout.
So this is
What people use.
keeps people honest.
Honest, yep. And then we went to the electronic clock, and
Digital?
yeah,
Of course.
they're and the battery's dead in it. But anyway, it's done through the software in our computer that we register the birds in this clock. So all of your birds are in here. And then when we do the race, we enter the birds over a pad that will scan it and put it into the clock. And then only those birds are in the race. All your other birds won't register for that race because it's been badged and on the club unit and put in here. So that is another way that it keeps everybody honest.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
How far have your pigeons flown?
Well, Topeka, and I'm 529 air miles from Topeka.
And how do they get there?
We take our birds to the Twin Cities. And
By
then,
vehicle?
Yep. And then we load them on. We have the crates that are all the same size.
Okay.
And we put them on their transport trailer. And then they take them down 35 into Iowa and Missouri and Kansas.
And then they release them
In the morning.
in the morning.
And then everybody's notified at what time they're released.
Okay.
And then when the birds come home and the race is over, then we read the clocks out.
Sure.
And everything is judged by yards per minute.
So is there a prize?
You can do that, but we just do it because we just love the birds and love to do this.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
So, Kansas, how many birds did you send?
Usually you pick out the ones that you think are going to do the best. You
Right.
don't send a whole bunch there.
Right.
Only a few. But down there, Lolita and I have released the birds. There's a center down there, a big parking lot, and they come from all directions to Topeka. They call it the
goodness.
Midwest race.
Sure.
So they're coming from every direction.
Oh, sure.
And there's thousands of pigeons in that race.
Oh, my. That must be thrilling
It is.
to see.
It's pretty interesting.
And then suddenly the cages are open and all these birds
yeah.
go up and circle around a little bit and then head in lots of different directions to
yeah.
go home.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's pretty neat to see them gather
Oh,
up.
my goodness, yes. And then before you know it, they're home. Do they fly continually or do they stop at night?
It depends on the day, how tough it is.
Sure.
If it's decent, they'll come right on through. And if not, they may go down and get a drink of water and then continue on.
Okay.
And you can tell, like, if the race goes into the next day, they'll hold up for the night and then come in usually in the next morning, early in the morning till like 9, 10 o'clock.
So when it's all said and done, do they all pretty much reach their destination around the same time, or do you have laggers? And
Yeah, they'll come in at all different times. On a fast race, when it's easy, you'll get 3, 4 pigeons at a time come together. And then on a tougher race, they'll be staggered out, where they'll come in
Sure.
one at a time.
if somebody goes, you know what? I think I like more information. Besides Googling it, how do they find out about your group? Are
You can go on the internet and you can search the American Racing
know.
Pigeon Union, and they will have the contacts there.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the American Racing
Pigeon
Pigeon
Union.
Union. Oh,
Yeah.
you're
They're
unionized.
They're in Oklahoma. Yeah,
Oh, for goodness sake.
and
A
they'll
pigeon union.
yeah, they've got a lot of information on the site.
I
So,
would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish we had 2 days to talk. I told you I had a lot of questions.
Well, there's a lot to this.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
How fun. I don't know if you're as excited as I am, but I think this would be an awful lot of fun. Whether you're retired, whether you're still working. Can you hold down a job and do pigeons at
Oh,
the
yeah.
same time?
Yep. Yeah. We have a guy that works up in Duluth area, and he races with us. So, yeah. And
No.
I did when I was working. I'm retired now, but yeah, you can work around it.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, if whatever you love, you can always work around.
Yep. Yep.
So I take it you're not sorry you ever got into pigeon racing,
No.
pigeon raising, pigeon genetics, pigeon everything.
Yeah. And my friend Les Riley, the president of our club, he's a wealth of information.
How many people in your club?
10.
10.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think it would be awfully fun.
Well, you're pretty proud when you see that bird come in and known how far it flew.
Exactly.
Yep.
Clock in.
Yep. Yep.
Google it or go to the, I've already forgotten, American
Racing Pigeon Union.
Racing
Yep.
Pigeon Union.
Mm-hmm.
If you want more information. I misspoke at the beginning. It's not Green View, it's Green Field Physical Fitness. And if you're looking to buy, if you're looking to sell, don't forget the Lakes team at Edina Realty. You will be amazed at what they know. If you just have some questions, even though you think they're dumb questions, call them up. Ask for the Lakes team. They'll give you everything you need to know about buying, selling houses. I am so grateful you came today.
Well, thank you, Diane. Appreciate it.
Oh, it was fun. Stay tuned next week. Come back, sit down at our table, and we've got another very interesting guest. So until then, keep it cooking.